Hey y'all, how y'all doing? What's up? What's up? So, are we ready for another Love and Marriage Huntsville review? I am, y'all. I've been excited to see this newest episode. Anyway, let's get into it. So, the scene opens up with Destiny going to meet Martell in the park. The conversation seemed very forced and staged, like this we BFFs and we just vibing and we just so super cool. It's a storyline for sure. But anyway, we have them sitting down and talking. Destiny is talking about her dad. Prayers up for Destiny and her dad. We want to just be considerate and respectful of that, definitely. So, but then Destiny goes into talking about how she just signed a lease to, I guess, premiere or she said a studio space. So I guess she's trying to get a space so she can film her Madani products. And y'all, I ain't knocking nobody hustle, but Destiny, you have a bad habit of jumping in too deep. And obviously she's probably getting advice from Stormy, jumping in too deep before you actually have proof of concept. I mean, really, where are the sales, Destiny? And this is why I say this. When I go to Destiny's, when she goes live, I'll sometimes come in there and check out her lives and different things. And then I don't always do that Mental Mondays thing, but I've watched that and I don't see the interaction. What do you call it? Like I don't see a lot of interaction between her and her fans. I don't see, and what I mean by that is I don't see the numbers. I don't see people super excited about her products, super excited about what she's got going on. I don't see, and once again, the numbers. Like I don't see a lot of people viewing her lives. I don't see a lot of people checking her out. And I'm like, where's the proof of concept? You're leasing a whole studio space and you're still dealing with a bunch of financial things with your ex-husband. Why now? Why are all y'all acting like y'all too good to do what Melody is doing and just get you a little 2-bedroom apartment, condo, or whatever, have one bedroom and film your products and things like that out of that bedroom until you actually have enough sales and enough production to afford a studio space. But anyway, y'all, let's get into the rest of this review. So, y'all, let's continue with the forced conversation with Destiny and Martell. Destiny go ahead and brings up the girls trip. Well, no, Martell brings up how things go at the girls trip, like he really care. So Destiny uses it as an opportunity, and Martell sees it as a great opportunity to talk crap about Melody. So he said, "Yeah, with you and Melody and in y'all relationship." She's like, "Well, yeah, she got mad. She was real mad and angry when I brought up how she was trying to respectfully cheat." And he goes, "Well, yeah, because it was like she basically wanted me to get caught, like she wanted to catch me so she can have something to talk about." What? What? She wanted to catch you cheating so she could have something to talk about. What woman is going to have 4 kids, a whole marriage, a whole business structure and everything with a man in hopes that she going to catch him cheating just so she can have something to talk about? And then Destiny online face going to say, yeah, well, right after I brought that up about her respectfully cheating, she was so nice to me after. That's another lie. No, she wasn't. Melody was keeping it cordial. She tried to completely ignore you at first. And after that brought up and she knew she had to continue to deal with you, she kept it cordial. You was the one trying to walk around and smack her on the behind and do the most. Y'all, what in the world are we watching? But anyway, y'all, let's get into the next thing. So by the end of Martell and Destiny sit down, things had gotten real messy. They started bringing up the whole Trish situation, which it was obvious on Martell's face that a lot more had happened than what Trish is saying. And then they got into talking about how Martell said he didn't like how Marcel came to him and was, basically bragging, well, I didn't do anything to get divorced. So Martell starts going in talking about how you going to try to say something about me when you out here doing worse than me. Destiny gonna try to save face because her relationship with Tisha and be like, well, I don't know. I mean, it it's what people do, whatever the people choose to do in their marriage. I don't know if he's Martell's just lashing out. I don't know. But anyway, they both just sitting there trying to come up with things to talk about. Destiny is sitting looking very uncomfortable sitting there. It was like an entire intentional position that she had on that bench with Martell. She made sure she sat at the very far end. She wasn't even facing Martell to talk to him. And she had her purse set between the both of them. It was very intentional, like, we don't hang out, we're not that close type of a setup. And y'all, that's really unusual. When people are friends and they got a real court, like, kind of like a very friendly, intimate, you my homie type of relationship, you will sit a little bit closer to each other. You don't have to be touching each other, but you would naturally sit closer to that person when you are good friends. And you would be, at least, even if you're not sitting closer, you will at least be facing each other. The both of them were sitting on that bench facing straight forward, and Destiny made it at I don't know why, but she made sure she had her purse sitting like a barrier. Y'all, just learning and knowing a little bit about what do they call that? Like body language. It was very intentional. Like, we got to make sure that no one, it's like she had a conversation with Martell and said, look, we got to stop all this nonsense about me and you messing around. And I don't like that stuff is spreading around. So I'm going to make sure when you and I meet, it looks a certain way, like we just cool. But y'all look both very uncomfortable and ridiculous. And y'all conversations looked very forced. But y'all, it got very messy and very interesting. Like, Martell was going in on throwing Marceau under the bus, and Destiny was doing her best to pretend like she didn't know nothing about nothing. So anyway, y'all, the next scene is Melody and Nell. They have a sit down conversation. So here's what I like about that sit down between Nell and Melody. And y'all can call this ass kissing or whatever you want to call it, but I know how hard it is to be and stand up. Well, how hard it was for me in past relationships to do what Melody is doing in her relationships. And that is called setting boundaries. Being explicit about things you do and do not want from your relationships with other people. And people who want to take advantage of your relationship, be disrespectful in your relationships, those are the people that have the biggest problem with you when you set boundaries. And what I liked about this scene here was Melody choosing to let Nell know specifically what she did not like that Nell said in a recent interview. Well, not recent now, but back then. And she showed her exactly what she did not like and how she felt about it. And she didn't go behind Nell's back and say, oh, Nell ain't never mentored me. She told Nell to her face, no, I don't feel like you were my mentor. She told her right there to her face. So for those that try to say, oh, Melody is two-faced, oh, she's funny acting. No, Melody states where she stands, according to Stormy, in your face in the moment, and she lets you know. And then from that time on, she acts it out. She tells you how she feels. Now, if later she's being cordial, that ain't her trying to pretend to be your friend. She's being cordial, but she's already let you know where she stands with you. And she's not very moved by people's emotions towards her, people coming back and saying other things later. She goes with you from that point on, where how she says she feels about you that's how she moves with you from that point on. And just because she's cordial and she puts up with you, especially for the show, that does not mean that she's now your friend. Because I'm pretty sure if you were to ask her, are we friends? She would bring up the ways in which she feels like you were still not her friend, as she did with Destiny when she tried to ask Destiny about where did that comment come from when you said something about my mom pimping me out. Where did that comment come from? And Destiny refused to really answer it truthfully. So Melody's basically like, so yeah, that's where we stand. Me and you ain't got no place else to go in this relationship. So anyway, y'all, the next scene we got Kimmy and Maurice and their conversation about his DUI. Y'all, what the hell, y'all? This sit down between Kimmy and Maurice about Maurice getting arrested for a DUI was completely pointless. Kimmy allowed Maurice to steer the entire conversation. Now, I understand you could be like, well, which he said in the scene, I don't want to say anything to incriminate myself. But Kimmy tried to start the conversation off with, I don't know uh, whether or not to just accept what you tell me or to assume that there's more going on because I feel like you keep things from me. Basically, that's what Kimmy said, which in short is that I feel like sometimes you don't tell me the complete truth. All right. That's what we really hearing is sometimes I'm not sure if you telling me the full truth about situations. And then what I thought was very interesting, and it goes back to the whole situation with Marceau. Marceau and Maurice have convinced their wives that it is normal and usual for them to fall asleep at work on a regular basis. Why? You don't work out of town. You're not working where you gotta catch a flight back home. Y'all are working in areas where you can drive your behind home at night. So the both of them have strategically already set things up where, I might have fallen asleep at work. So therefore, you can be out overnight and come home late in the early in the mornings. You can also set the stage where you don't have to quote answer your phone because I was asleep. Okay, and then she goes where I went down to the office to see if you had fallen asleep at the office, and then he hurries and steers the conversation, and she was like, well, I don't know if with the whole situation, I don't know what you're telling me and what I should believe. And he just jumps into, well, I don't know if you can help me with this situation. He hurries and steers the conversation into talking again about the case versus the issues that they're actually having in their relationship. And Kimmy is very closed mouth with it. She just go ahead and goes with it in that direction. It's like, well, I don't know if what did she say? Hold on. Yeah, she just says, well, at the end of the day, I'm just there for him when he needs me, and I'm there for him when he needs. Wait a minute. He's there for me when I need him, and I'm there for him when he needs me. Kimmy also says, and sometimes I feel like I read more into a situation that I need to. Why? Because he plays the little mind games with you and convince you that you are assuming more than what you should assume, which is the same thing Marcel does. And it's like, Kimmy, we all know you're much smarter than that. But I think Kimmy had made up in her mind that she wanted this man and she wanted this relationship. And she's going to throw all her eggs in this basket and even choose not to use her own critical thinking so that she can remain in this relationship and remain hopeful. Yeah, I've seen this several times in a lot of relationships with people. And it never turns out good. And I think it's sad to see because at the end of the day, you're choosing not to experience the love and the partnership that is out there for you and that you can genuinely have with another individual when you're accepting so little and so less from the person you're currently with. So the next scene is Trish and Ken, and they're in the garage cleaning up the garage or whatever, and they're talking about the whole situation with Marquez. Trish says that Marquez said that he was coming down to notarize the divorce papers, but he never showed up. And then Ken is like, yeah, that's going to hinder things that me and you trying to do, business wise, us getting married. He was like, well, I'm not trying to pressure you into anything because, of course, Trish looked extremely uncomfortable once again when he brings up marriage. And so basically that's the sum of their conversations, that they did all that at that sit down at that dinner. And then Marquez, she's saying basically Marquez is not following through. He's not showing up to get the papers notarized. Now, Ken says that things will still progress with or without him. And I'm like, how is that possible? Only thing I can think of is that maybe, I know you can put a divorce notice sometimes in some states in the newspaper. And if after a certain period of time, they do that here in Missouri. And after a certain period of time, if you don't show up or sign, then they will go ahead and proceed with it, and your divorce will be granted. So you can put I think it's called, anyway, it's like a notice in the newspaper. But anyway, y'all, yeah, basically they're saying that Marquez is not following through with the divorce. So Nell and Chris Fletcher have a sit down, and they talk about basically Nell's visit with Melody at her house. And Nell basically just says that she felt very hurt by Melody saying that she's never been a mentor to her. And then she goes on to talking about how she was talking to Mel on the phone about things that were going on in her, in her marriage during the time that her mom was at her house. Nell's mom was at her house sick and dying. And, my heart really went out to because I can honestly see that Nell really does care about her friendship relationship with Melody. However, I think what really caused the downfall of their relationship is that with everything that's going on and Melody probably feeling like everybody's buying into Martell's lies and his narrative, alleged lies, okay, his narrative, that she felt like Nell and Chris were going along and falling into that by her making a comment that Melody is stubborn and hard-headed. And it really, to me, and I think a lot of us saw that, we felt like when Nell said that she was playing into the whole narrative that there's two sides to the story outside of the story that is being told by Melody, that Martell is trying to put out revenge P on her and that he is doing things to harass her. He's doing things to make her life difficult and complicated for no reason at all, really, other than the fact that he just wants to be able to try to control her. And I really feel like Melody felt like Nell was not standing in the gap and being her friend when she needed her most. She felt like she was just going along with the narrative. And then I think at that point, she felt like she couldn't trust her anymore. And y'all got to understand this. A lot of people have come in Melody's life via Martell. And as soon as they get divorced, anything that Martell tells them, they just go along with it. Oh, Melody was messing around and cheating on Martell. Melody was messing with other people. Even worse, Melody's their youngest child ain't really, it could possibly not be Martell's. I mean, all the nastiest things you could say about a person after they spent like 13 plus years, and I think it was 13 or 14 years of being married to somebody, and all these people being in y'all's lives during y'all marriage, for them to just side with whatever Martell tells them about you, you gonna feel some type of way about it. I think people not understand, these people, the Martell and Melody were together for almost, I think it was 13 to 14 years and 4 kids. And then most of the people were around through the majority of a good portion of their marriage. So for everyone to just side with Martell and whatever he tells them about their relationship, I can understand how you could be very bitter and angry with the people who were around you guys at that time, that people don't even come and check in with you first. They just go ahead and go along with his narrative. And I think because Melody knew that these people were primarily Martell's friends at the onset, that she already feels like she's not sure she can trust them. And then for them to just go along with his narratives and games, it's like, okay, well, screw all of y'all. I don't understand why it's so hard to believe why Melody don't fool with these people. So the episode ends with Melody and Dr. Shanita doing a community event. I can't think of what the exact, but it was a community event to reach out to helping, I think maybe kids in the community. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, the point of it is both of them show up to this community event, and Melody says that she invited the Scotts to come, and I think Neil and Chris Fletcher as well, to show up for this event, and none of them showed up. And she said, yeah, that's real convenient that they don't want to show up, because basically, since that, I guess that situation with Maurice had just happened a day ago or a couple of days ago, that she's like, yeah, they don't want to show up because they don't want to have real conversations about what's going on. They're trying to avoid having a conversation about what happened. And Melody talks about how her grandmother was unalived by a drunk driver. And so basically Melody's like, that's the sort of stuff that you can't play around with, and that it's kind of ridiculous how everybody wants to not stand up and address the real issues and address things that are really going on. They just kind of want to play in the background and not really discuss what's really going on, what the real issues are, and how it's basically a double standard. And then also you'll see later on, they're showing in next week's upcoming episode is Martell and Marceau getting into it and basically like, look, you want to try to say you don't have respect for me, but I know where the bones are buried. And then Tisha trying to hurry up and run up out of the place. She's like, come on, can we leave? Can we go? Because they always trying to hide what's going on. And then also I like in the next upcoming episode with Melody sitting down trying to talk to Kimmy about the situation with Maurice, and Kimmy looking like she want to do everything but discuss that. So it's not fair when they say when the rabbits got the GUN, because they always want to go in and have so much to say about what's going on with Martell and what's going on with Melody. Mostly what's going on with Melody, how Melody is this, how Melody ain't that. But when it's time to address things that's going on in their own house and issues and things that they're having, they don't want nobody to talk about none of that stuff. They want to just glaze over. Let's talk about the millimeters. You know what I mean? That's what they want to talk about. They want to talk about how Melody ain't being accountable when it comes to the millimeters and so on and so forth. But they don't want to talk about or how Martell ain't right for how he's dealing with his marriage and his ex-wife. But y'all don't want to talk the truth about what y'all doing in y'all households currently right now today. So anyway, y'all, it was a good episode. I do feel like the episodes are getting better now that we're talking about other people's issues other than just trying to be like, let's talk about the millimeters. Come on, y'all. That was so played out. I'm glad to see in this episode it was not brought up not one time. Thank goodness. Let's talk about some real issues. Okay, anyway, y'all, that's all for me in this review. You all have a wonderful day, and I will chat with you guys later. Bye-bye for now.